Just as soon as it was gone, I looked at my daughter and she shook. She was kind of frozen in place. No one's going to believe this, she said. We just saw a fairy. So I sat back. I'd gone about a quarter of the way when I heard something like a little quick tapping or scuttling sound around the ground behind me. That's taking not into account, obviously, where this was actually written and who was experiencing it. Because I think different places in the world would experience different things. And they have, I think, probably different mischievous ways of doing things. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome to the Mensch Corner podcast.
I'm Omar, and this is my beautiful wife, Savannah. And she is looking delicious as well as casual, which is nice. We don't always get to do that, so we're kind of enjoying a little more casual day as we're
around the house. So you know what? I'd like to be in relaxing clothes.
There's nothing wrong with being relaxing. So for those of you out there,
I'm pretty sure most of our audience is in relaxing clothes, so we can enjoy it together as we read through some stories.
I think they are too. So that's good. It's good to know what our audience is.
What do we have today?
So today we've got something fun. We've talked about some paranormal things before, and this time we thought we'd bring in something that's a little bit different, but walks into the new year with encounters with fairies. So these are stories of people who feel that they've encountered fairies. And so we're going to read through a few of them, and we're going to try to figure out what fairy it might be, or if it's something else. And then if you've had experience like this, well, share. Because we would love to have your story on here and to see exactly what might be going down from your side. So before we jump in,
It's great tea, by the way. I've already tried it.
Okay, Savannah already jumped ahead. We have our traditional Earl Grey.
That's right.
And we have to have more of our fun, whimsical mugs because it ties into the fairies.
Of course, we have to stay on theme here, everyone.
All right, let's get into it. This is story number 1. So this one, I've named him, because I think they were very cute, and they are definitely stories that are from Reddit. So this is Fairies in the Cupboard. So for those of you who have cupboards, fairies will always find something fun to do there.
They have to hide somewhere.
Well, they do fun things. So this is where it's actually kind of an interesting story. So I've had multiple experiences over a few years. I was living in an apartment with my girlfriend at the time, and one night she was looking for baking soda that she used to scrub her face with. It was always in the same spot on the shelf in the bathroom, and we looked at the spot. The space for the small box was on the shelf, but there was no baking soda. I was standing in the doorway of the bathroom, confused as she opened up the medicine cabinet above the sink to check inside. No dice. As soon as she closed the cabinet door, I saw the baking soda back in the space on the shelf she had just checked. So they're experiencing this together. As soon as she closed the cabinet door, I saw. So she freaked out and thought it was ghosts. I knew better because ghosts don't normally play little pranks. I spoke loudly throughout the apartment saying, "Welcome to our home. Make yourself at home," etc., etc. I just picked up some fresh peppers from my mother's garden, and I had them in a bowl in the kitchen. "Please help yourself to a pepper. They're from the garden if you'd like." And then we went to bed. The next morning, my girlfriend got up and shrieked, saying, "Stop messing with her." And I immediately sprung up from bed. That's a very good response. A single pepper had been removed from the bowl and sat away from the counter near a windowsill. Now, I was absolutely sure it was fairies and some sort. So over the next months, we had more encounters, such as our dog going under the coffee table with its tail sticking out into the tablecloth, just making weird growling sounds that had a rhythm of talking, like little dog was talking with the fairies. Under the table, the only place where these sounds, he made that. My particular favorite moment, though, was a 4-leaf clover that sprouted out from the crack in the shower.
Oh, wow.
So this is actually kind of a fun...
Fairies are known to be very mischievous.
Well, they can be. And the fun part, so for those of you who have not known a lot about fairies, the interesting part is there are fairies everywhere in the world. You may not call them exactly the same thing depending on where you are, but I've read stories that are everywhere from, you look at the United Kingdom would be a great place, but they're all over France and Germany, and they're in the Philippines, and they're in New Zealand. They each have different names, but it's these little creatures that sort of exist in and out of our own time.
You have a sense of humor.
And they have definitely a sense of humor. So, what do you think this one is? So
I,
we're kind of like thinking through what it would be.
I think it's definitely just a fun little fairy. The fact that she welcomed the little fairy and said, "Well, please take a pepper," and they actually had the humor to take the pepper is pretty hilarious. That's a cute little banter that they're going to have back and forth.
Well, I think it's fun to have kind of playful fairies in your house.
Oh, it is.
Now, there is this idea, particularly in Celtic, Scottish, Irish lore with fairies, that you have to be nice to them, right? I mean, because if you're not nice, my gosh, they will do whatever they want to.
They hold grudges.
Hold grudges. So I'm just sort of speculating that this might be either a pixie or potentially a brownie or something like that. So brownies tend to do things in houses. Pixies tend to be more playful. So it could be any of those. That's taking not into account, obviously, where this was actually written and who was experiencing it. Because I think different places in the world would experience different things. And they have, I think, probably different mischievous ways of doing things. So to me, this is like a fun one to sort of get started and take a look and see what's going on. But I'm happy that people are taking the time to literally come out and say, I may have had an experience of the fairy, but this one was pretty definitive. And
this one was very open-minded to the fact that it was actually a fairy.
So would you want a fairy like that in our house?
Why not? The kids would have fun with it.
I'm positive the kids would have fun with it.
Yeah, they'd get up to some naughty things, I think, behind our back with the pixie or the fairy.
I know. I think I just get worried now all of a sudden because I do think you're right. They're going to probably see them a lot more than we will. They're much more.
I think they're more open to allowing the younger kids to see them, just because I think there is a belief, I think, that opens them up a little bit more, but also the fact that kids are not closed off in the sense of, yes, it ties into belief.
Yeah.
That they just literally look at the world as it is, not what they think it is. And this is where a fairy will pop in and just be like, well, this is my world. Let's share it.
Let's share it.
Fun. Yeah.
I think Savannah and I would love to have a garden that would probably be more inviting to them. I think we've got a nice garden, but I think it would be more inviting if we could add things to make it interesting for them to be there. Whether they show up or not, or they choose to join us, that's a very, very different question. All right, let's look at our second one. These are kind of interesting. So this one I've named the Forest Friend. So I saw one being hiking in the mountains next to my house. Again, we don't know where this is. I could describe it as a little old man, kind of dopey from like Harry Potter kind of looking.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at me from behind some rocks and wanting me to see him. At first, it was like it could be some plants or whatever moving around, but I wasn't really sure. But then I did see him, and when I looked back again, there was an empty space directly behind that rock. So my initial thought was when I spotted him, I looked again, and there he was. I saw his figure in the fog. It was almost invisible, but didn't want me to touch him or see him too much. I found it a bit funny, and I greeted him, and I asked him not to follow me. I was a little bit scared. I felt grateful that they allowed me to see him, and I got this feeling that there's always there, maybe protecting me just while I hike.
Oh, that's such a heartwarming little story.
So this is person hiking in nature. Fairies are obviously very connected to nature. I can't tell exactly where, but the fog says it's probably a cooler area. But it was very cute that this little creature. Now, again, what could this be? And this
old little looking man, looking like it's like from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Potter now becomes kind of a designation for almost different things out there.
I don't know what it would be, but the fact that it made itself known and it's like, yeah, look at me. Yes, I'm here. Keep on going. That's pretty adorable.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, would you be a little bit taken aback by a little?
I'd be so curious.
Little curious creature looking at you.
No, I would be more afraid of a person following me or hiding behind a rock than a little unknown creature.
Yes, no, I think we can agree on that part.
No, I absolutely love encounters like that. I don't think I recall something that I've had remotely similar.
Yeah, this is a very, very cute little story, but I think it would be fun to find them in the forests. I think this is one of the things that Savannah and I would love to do in our travels is to go find these beautiful old forests and then sort of see and feel kind of the energy that's there. And
I can imagine that little creature as well feels how at peace you are. You're just minding your own business, hiking. There's something about that they just feel like, okay, well, I'm going to let this person see me. Because that does not sound like it was accidental. It sounds like that little creature was like, well, you can see me a little bit. Don't come too close. Don't touch. But we can see each other from a distance. It's really nice.
This one could be a wood sprite. So a different kind of a fairy that actually just lives in the woods.
How come you know all of these types of fairies? Did you do your homework before? I have absolutely no idea what type of fairies
I know you
get.
But from my homework part comes through writing my novel. So, so understanding a bit fairies and fairy realm is something I've always been very interested in. So I've got a little collection of some books on fairies, and particularly the ones.
So let's clarify for our audience. We're referring to fairies. Do they all have wings? Or is it just a mythological term?
They don't. I think the reason we do is because of, frankly, probably Disney, creating kind of the fairies and pixies and everything else.
Well, I think that's great to clarify for our audience.
So, and they come in different forms too. I mean, like brownies don't have any wings. They look like probably little gnomes more than anything else. And there are gnomes out there. That's another version. There are many different kinds of fairies that don't all.
Can you just imagine what they call themselves? And we're calling them all these funky names.
I have no idea what they're calling us.
I think it's no different to us calling funny-looking creatures like extraterrestrial beings aliens.
Well, we're the aliens.
We're the aliens to them.
Well, it's like me telling you you have a really beautiful accent. And you look at me and she says, no, you're the one with the accent.
Yeah, well, you have the American accent. So I can imagine something being so foreign to something else or someone else.
Yeah.
What on earth we would look like to them, like these horrible giants stomping around?
Yeah, we would be probably horrible giants stomping around.
Hide. Yeah, no reason they're hiding.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I think the fun part is also watching how animals react to them. Like in the first story, we had the dog. I would have sworn Prin would see them. I mean, I think she seemed to have a very big gift. She's the one that we've mentioned in a past episode that actually came back to visit after she passed away. So welcome all that, but it does take a certain level of kind of quiet to kind of get there and then be able to be part of this. So that was to me another little fun one of just sort of seeing. So not all of them are like really, really light. There are really mischievous ones out there that don't necessarily have your best interests in mind. So this is another one. This one actually was written in a way that you know where it was. It's actually in Scotland. So this is from the shores of Loch Lomond. So this is one of the most famous lochs. I'm sorry for those Scottish out there. I probably butchered the name. However, it is one of the most beautiful places that I have seen. And I would love for Savannah and I to travel over there and take a look at it.
Is this the place of like the Loch Ness Monster?
No, that would be Loch Ness.
Oh, okay.
So
completely different. Okay.
But there are, I want to say, I wish I knew the number. I think at one time I did. There are probably thousands of lochs within Scotland.
I can imagine.
So many bodies of water. So it's absolutely beautiful over there. And so for those of you who haven't visited Scotland, Scotland has a beautiful remoteness to it, particularly when you go in the northern part and you go to like the Isle of Skye or the different isles, that are out there. So when you travel and see places like that, there's a stillness that's absolutely stunning. So this person actually experienced that. So I'll go ahead and kind of start the story. So I haven't seen, quote unquote, but I'll share my experience anyway. There is a fairy trail. So, and for those of you who haven't traveled to Scotland, there are a lot of fairy trails out there that kids like to follow at Luss on the banks of Loch Lomond. The area has a long tradition of fairies and other strange sightings. So always fun when you have that to start with. There's a beautiful scenery out there and a lot of old woodland, craggy hills, streams flowing through the loch, moorland, and scattered farms. So you can kind of take this visual. It's a pretty remote place. Along with my family, I stayed at a local hotel for a couple nights a few years ago, and we were touring a part of Scotland. I decided to venture alone to the pub along the road after our evening meal at a second night. There were a few setback cottages from one side of the road and the loch behind them. On the other side was a heavily wooded steep hill, no streetlights once you walked away from the hotel, and the cottages were in darkness. I imagine they were holiday homes. So that's probably true. It was pitch black around me and quite eerie. After a bend on the road, I could see the lights from the pub, and I hurried towards it. I only had a single pint, so he's qualifying what he's
so they were drinking.
This is probably good because, I mind you, pints in Scotland are, well, they're big.
Yes, huge.
Not tiny. I only had a single pint.
Only a single, huh?
Only a single. And apart from a few people eating in the dining room, the main bar room was empty and the tables had been set for the next lunchtime. And looking like it normally closed midweek. So it wasn't particularly welcoming place for an order a second drink. So, and when I travel with a friend of mine, Darren over in Scotland, he would have like 2 or 3 pints. I was done after one. So you
build up a tolerance.
You got to build up a tolerance. The Scottish definitely do. So I wasn't looking forward to walking back to the hotel, feeling a little creeped out for some reason. It's not a long walk, but probably a half kilometer or so. And there's neither light from the pub at one end, and there's only light at the hotel at the other. So it's a proper road, so it wasn't like a little trail, although very quiet given its location. So I sat back. I'd gone about a quarter of the way when I heard something like a little quick tapping or scuttling sound around the ground behind me. It was too dark to see anything clearly in front, so I didn't look back. Then the sound caught up with me on my left. Then it was directly in front of me. And then came to him on my right. It was something small, like scurrying around me, like the noise, like fingernails quickly drumming on concrete. It's very, very descriptive. The rational part of my brain said it was fallen leaves, grown brittle, that were blowing along the wind. It was breezy.
It could be a small animal, too.
Yes. But it was hardly what you'd call a windy night because of the wooden hill there, and there was a lot of leaf litter around. The sound rotated around me as I walked. At one point, I thought it might be a small dog, Yorkshire Terrier sized, and decided to tag along with me and was running excitedly in circles. But I knew it wasn't. So, now the other thing that they were looking for. So at one point, that small dog, quote unquote, seemed to tag along with me and run excitedly in circles. But it didn't stay with me, and then the area was lighted as I approached the hotel, and it became apparent there was nothing there, just me walking alone. I told my wife and kids, in the unanimous opinion, that it wasn't leaves blowing in the wind. Make of that what you will, but it's the closest I've come to a fairy encounter.
So they never actually saw anything.
Never
they
actually
just felt
saw anything.
something.
Just heard all kinds of things rustling around and moving and checking it out. So,
well,
he was open.
Maybe,
he said, I don't know if it was a fairy encounter.
Well, maybe it was a fairy, but it could also have been actually a small animal at that point.
Yes, it could have. I don't know that a small animal would have been like circling around him and chasing him.
No, I'm trying to picture what he means by circling around.
Well, considering he had like full darkness of where he was, and he could only see in the distance the one portion of the light, and in the distance the pub behind him, so hotel and pub, then he couldn't really see anything around him. So
I think a lot of animals could be seen as not necessarily circling, although they're keeping an eye on an intruder coming by.
Do you think that this guy was considered an intruder to the
fairies? I'm sure.
So,
well, he did have some to drink, so I know that he was probably more freaked out just because he had alcohol in his system.
That's right. You want your full wits ahead when you're kind of going with fairies.
Yes. Well, it's a fun little story, though.
It was pretty cute to sort of see that, and then it's sort of like can you make the unexplained explained in some form? But I can tell you definitely from a Scottish point of view, they
It's
believe.
a place to find them.
Well, they not only that, but they really do believe, and it's ingrained in thousands of years of history. So.
Yeah, and the belief will result in you actually seeing and experiencing things too.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. So now we're down to our last two stories.
Okay.
So this one is a little more dark, but it actually is very interesting as well. This is the Cat Sìth.
The Cat Sìth, okay.
Okay, so we'll explain what a Sith is a little bit afterwards. So I saw a cat in a dream more than once. I had a nightmare that my family and I were running from something. At some point in the dream, an impossibly black cat creature appeared on my hands. It looked like a creature, but I didn't quite know. It looked like a cat, but it looked like it was pretending to be one.
Mm-hmm.
It grinned widely at me, an unnatural grin that sticks to me to this day. I told a friend who practiced Norse paganism about it, and he explained to me about Malks and the Cat Sìth. So the Cat Sìth is Scottish, Irish, kind of sort of the UK. The Malk must be a Norse component that's very similar to it. I used to see black shapes in the corner of my vision. Sometimes I suspected they were Malks. My friend warned me not to talk to them because there's something unseelie and they are not friendly. I don't know much about expression for cat. That cat creature has stayed in my mind ever since then.
Oh, but it was a dream.
Well, remember how we've talked about how potentially you have images of past lives or connections that happen through the dream world?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this would be the same thing.
It's very interesting. It's like a little message being sent to her.
So the Cat Sìth, it's Cat She is probably pronouncing it correctly rather than the way it's spelled. So this is the Gaelic component of it that I'm not doing well with. Is a large fairy cat from Scottish and Irish folklore, known as a magical creature, sometimes a witch that can walk on its hind legs, and was associated with stealing souls, particularly during Halloween.
Not something you want to welcome.
No, which is the reason why this friend said, "Yeah, let's not talk to it. Let's keep your distance. Don't try to address it."
I wonder if that was their only time that they had a dream like that. Maybe because they shut them down. It was pretty good and went over to someone else.
Yeah, and I don't know where. So this person is the Reddit user is a possible Canadian. It was just written about 6 days ago. So this is actually pretty recent, and it might actually be in Canada. I'm going to take a leap and say that it's probably in that area. So Canada is obviously very beautiful and forested and everything else too. So that makes it fascinating to me, just to sort of see where these things are happening, different places in the world.
So well, I definitely have very interesting dreams as well. I think one experience I had, which I'll share, was recent, and we have our kids on our son on our monitor next to our bedside when we go to bed, just so that we can keep an eye on him. And I was watching myself sleep, but it's almost like I was in someone else's body, like I was seeing through someone else's eyes, watching me sleep.
Was this an out of body experience?
I have no idea,
because that you're describing what would be probably an out of body experience.
And but I felt a presence. That's the difference. And
that wasn't you.
I didn't feel like me. No.
Okay.
And I was basically watching out at myself, and it's almost like I got this feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with my son. So me looking at myself, I jumped into my body, woke up from where I was sleeping, looked at my son's monitor, and there's this person the size of my son, who looks like my son, looking over at my son from outside of his crib and reaching out to him, and my son is crying. And I'm watching this on the monitor, and this thing from the outside, which basically looks like a version of my son, is reaching out to him, and as this thing is soothing him, and my son starts calming down, this thing basically merges in with my son. and then it's gone. And so I woke up from that.
I can imagine you
and
would.
I was like, what on earth did I? And that was all in a dream, and then I actually woke up.
And then, of course, you checked the monitor right away.
Oh my gosh, my eyes were on that monitor for the next hour. I could not sleep. So I have no idea what on earth that was. We'll call it a fairy or a creature or something. But again, that was a dream. So this is where dreams, I think, can symbolize a lot into something reaching out to us or something we're feeling as a presence around us.
That gives me an interesting idea. We should do an episode on dreams.
Yes, dreams is great.
And for those of you out there,
very vivid dreams.
There are so many, and the funny thing about dreams is they seem to disappear almost. It's
instantly,
almost like
if you don't think about it.
If you don't think about them after you get up, and trying to do a dream journal is a very, very interesting way.
I have a dream journal, and I've learned even if you get a feeling or a hunch that you dreamt about something but you can't quite remember it, make an effort of trying to remember what you were dreaming about. Because a lot of times you'll forget things that weren't that important or didn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like this tingling feeling of I'm remembering something, it's just like on the edge of my memory, you need to pick at it.
So the other thing that we've talked about was looking at the concept of past lives, which will be another episode.
It ties into dreams as well.
And it ties in completely into dreams. And those memories may be memories of some other time that you've lived. Wow, I do. That gave me chills. The idea, because the first thing you think about is, in my mind, and this is probably I'm being colored by all the research I was doing on fairies, but the idea of a changeling. So, and I'm very glad it wasn't that. So
no, our son is very much our son.
Yeah, very much our son. So, well, I love that. So this is our final story for this episode, but hopefully if you like everything, please continue on. Before we do move into this final story, though, I just want to remind you, if you love our content, please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps us grow the channel and
share us around, whoever you think will enjoy it. I mean, we haven't been on here long, but we'd like to stay.
Yes.
So as long as you're enjoying what we're bringing to you, we will be here.
And if you're sharing with the fairy realm, just put in a good word for us. All right, so this is our last story, and I've named it The Yellow Butterfly.
Oh, I love butterflies.
So my daughter, 9, who was 7 at the time, and I saw the most beautiful, unique yellow butterfly in our favorite wooded area that we try to hang out with when the weather is nice. We were just talking to each other, and we were walking back to our car. The butterfly flew past us. Nothing out of the ordinary there. However, we both stopped to watch it. We usually do that anyway because we love watching butterflies. This one was flying a little differently than we could usually see. We can't describe the difference, but we actually did notice that it seemed to have a little yellow body and it had a weird flight. Neither of us said a word for a few seconds, just watching it fly away into the woods. Just as soon as it was gone, I looked at my daughter and she shook. She was kind of frozen in place. No one's going to believe this, she said. We just saw a fairy, Mom.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps.
I knew they were real.
Oh.
She was right. Nobody did believe us. So now it's just a special, fantastic memory for her and I. We don't really need to tell anyone because no one knows what we really saw. We live in a small town in southern Illinois.
Oh, that's adorable.
So it's a cute little story that's shared between mom and daughter, and the whole idea of just having just a little yellow butterfly go by, but basically flying very differently and erratically and moving around. Now, butterflies, for those of you who've sort of watched them a little bit.
Oh my gosh, as fast as they come, they disappear.
They disappear, but they're not erratically moving in different places. No. They're kind of fluttering from spot to spot. So my thought was this might be what's referred to as a yellow fairy. So yellow fairies are considered the oldest with the fae out there. And there are different kinds, so different colors. There are gray ones, and of course, we're calling them this. They're not calling themselves this. There are brown fairies, there are green fairies. and they each seem to do something, but
they're characterized by color.
They are characterized by color.
Okay. But they appear to be that color as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And specifically here, you're looking at yellow fairies that tend to emit light.
Oh.
So this was kind of a fun little thing to sort of see and have just sort of an experience that you could share. And the fact that it's a private experience because everyone's kind of laughing. I wouldn't laugh at them. I think it would be enormously interesting to see more, about the story.
They are going to remember this for the rest of their lives. That little girl, what a bonding moment that is to share a moment like that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think they're going
to. So they saw a fairy?
They believe they did, right?
Yeah.
And I think based on what they described, there's a high likelihood because it doesn't sound like a butterfly. And then if it's something that it definitely has kind of this glow to it. Butterflies can be brilliant colors, but I don't think you're going to see kind of.
But it's the flying that's
yes, that's what
I think is the big telltale sign.
It's a big telltale sign.
Erratic flying is definitely, you'd think of it as fairies, just because you don't see a butterfly erratically flying, and even so, you can tell that it's a butterfly, not a fairy. I think there's a very big distinction between the two.
I think there is too, and I think they noticed it. I think at the beginning they thought it was a butterfly, and they would always stop and watch them.
Both froze in that
and they
moment.
both froze and realized in that moment, no, this is not it. This is actually a fairy.
Oh.
So it's a beautiful experience. I mean, so you can see a lot of these experiences actually can be pretty magical, in their own right. I mean, and there are darker ones too. So there's much more out there. I think if the audience really enjoy these, I'll come back with another episode in the upcoming few months. And this time we'll look at other fairies, different places in the world.
As a child, I would play in the garden, and we lived in something in South Africa. We would call it a complex, which is basically just a bunch of houses in a closed-off area with security. And there was these big open fields with trees and everything. When I would play as a kid in these trees, and there would be just this very quiet moment. You hear the wind, you hear the trees rustling with the leaves, and you would just feel like there is something right there.
Yeah.
I never ever saw anything, but I always felt like there's these little fairies or these little creatures hanging around over here just watching me. Because obviously I'd be in their space at that point. But it's such a heartwarming feeling just because you don't feel the danger in that moment. At least the moments that I had felt no danger at all. But just part of a world that you cannot see, but you're like just stepping your toes into it, and it's amazing.
I think so too. I mean, for me, there's a huge magic. If you ever said that what would I spend my time sort of researching and creating into novels, it would be fairies. And so it's actually fun to include them in some of my current work that's out there. But the whole idea is to be in a place that has some of that magic. And for those of you around the world, I think every place has them. I think you just have to look a little bit into myths and legends and realize, as we mentioned before, that there's always some basis in reality for those. Now, they may have turned into stories that have taken on their own form, but they didn't start from nowhere. And the fairies, and particularly in the areas that I'm researching, which is in Scotland, there's a lot of rich fairy lore over there, and there's a lot of belief, from the old ways. And I think you have to be open to that.
And if you do enjoy things like this, we will encourage Omar to share his book with us, which he's in the process of publishing. So if you like this type of content, supernatural and fairies, his books are rooted and based in that type of work. And if you love Scotland, then you want to read it. So
thank you.
We would love to hear our audience encourage him so that we can in the future sit and talk about his book. And then hopefully you guys can buy it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking into how to do the best way to publish, and
you're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure it out. But for those of you out there,
and we will be having his book sit right here.
Oh yes, that would be even better.
That would replace the ducks. Yes.
We can't replace the ducks.
They will be alongside the ducks.
There we go.
I apologize.
The ducks represent our munch.
Okay.
So we can't do that.
Well, thank you so much for having us welcome this day to you and this content to you. We hope.
May there be magic in your life, and may fairies find you, even if they're moving the baking soda.
And remember, we are all figuring it out.
Yes, we are. Thank you for joining us. Until our next one.
Bye.